We got our hands on two of the most powerful handheld blowers in the game. Regardless of whether we're talking gas or electric, these two are the most powerful. The Ryobi 40 volt HP Whisper Series electric blower and the Ego 56 volt electric leaf blower. We're gonna put these two blowers head to head on things like versatility, battery life, battery charge time, power, all the things you need to know when you're looking to buy your next blower. Let's dive in and check it out. Guys, we're actually going to be giving away both these blowers too. All you got to do to enter is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and comment on this video with your favorite blower amongst these two, and that's the one you'll be entered to win. Guys, I know I've said it before, but thank you again if you're already a subscriber. Again, we're loving interacting with you guys in the comment section. If there's anything we're forgetting, I'm somewhat of a bonehead sometimes with these and I forget to cover stuff, so if I miss something, throw it in the comment section and I'll respond as quickly as possible. If there's anything you want me to answer in further detail about these two blowers, throw it in there as well. But if you're not already a subscriber and you want to learn a little bit more about lawn care, plant care, and the right tools for the job, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Before we put these blowers head to head, we're going to do a quick unboxing so you know exactly what to expect, exactly what they come with when you go to buy one of these from your major big box stores. All right, so starting out with the Ego blower. Again, found mostly at Lowe's. Let's see how this thing comes. Right off the bat, you've got a charger for your 56 volt battery, flared nozzle tip, a tapered nozzle tip, the nice Ego brushless motor, a shoulder strap, the funnel, nice 760 CFM reminder, owner's manual, and the 5 amp hour battery itself. And moving over to the Ryobi, also nice funnel. And again, the brushless motor, two different nozzle tips, and then also another user manual, the Ryobi charging base, and two 4 amp hour batteries. 1 and 2. Now that we understand what comes with these blowers in the box, like when you go to buy it from Lowe's or Home Depot, what does it come stocked ready with? Let's start looking at how these blowers actually function. Let's look at things like user experience, battery life, battery charge time, power, the warranty, and price. So in the category of user experience, we're going to talk about things like sound, weight, versatility of speed, the versatility of like how the air leaves the blower, the kind of control that you have amongst these two blowers. So guys, in terms of versatility of these two blowers, the speed versatility of these two is basically the exact same. I mean, they're basically carbon copies of each other. You have a variable speed trigger on both. You have a cruise control feature on both. Both variable speeds, you can set those on the lowest setting or the highest setting you want. And then they both have a turbo button. There's not a whole lot differentiating these two blowers in terms of how you control the air leaving the blower. I will say that the Ryobi has a little bit more of a wind up, and I feel like you do have more control on the lower end of the setting. I mean, that's a slow trickle of air coming out of there. Whereas the Ego, it's not quite as low speed. And as I get older and learn that not everything's just about how fast something blows or how hard it blows, I really like the control of the Ryobi in terms of how much air is leaving it. So as I showed in the unboxing, both of these blowers come with different nozzle tips. The Ego has that has a flare or fanned nozzle tip, and then a very tapered nozzle tip. And the Ryobi comes with two of the same kind of tapered nozzle tips. You have the ability to cut these different nozzles, the Ryobi nozzles. If you want 190 miles per hour coming out of this blower, you just leave it where it's at. If you want a little bit more, if you want a little softer air coming out, you can cut it down to 175. Even lower, you can cut it down to 160. It's a little weird in my opinion, because there's no going back once you cut it. So I don't really like that about this blower. And the overall weight of these blowers with battery in, the Ego is going to be 9.4 pounds, whereas the Ryobi is going to be a little bit lighter at 9 pounds on the dot. All right, guys, let's do a quick sound check of these two blowers. Now, while they're both going to be considerably quieter than a gas power blower, they do both have a unique kind of winding type sound that's a little strange. That's the best way I can describe it. The Ryobi 40 volt blower, which is part of their Whisper series that you can already kind of assume is going to be pretty quiet, claims to put out about 57 decibels, whereas the Ego Power Plus 56 volt blower puts out about 76 decibels. Now, what does that sound like? The Ryobi is going to sound a lot like this, whereas the Ego is going to sound like this. So the Ryobi is obviously a good bit quieter, and that difference gets even more stark when you hit the turbo button. This is the Ryobi with the turbo button. Ego with the turbo button. Pretty loud. Gonna give the nod to Ryobi on this one. Another cool feature to these blowers is the battery life indicator. On the back of the battery, the Ryobi, you got to click the button, whereas the Ego stays on. So guys, a quick summary in terms of user experience of these two blowers. In terms of versatility on how the air is coming out or how much, they're going to be basically exactly the same. Both got a cruise control, both got a turbo button and a variable speed trigger. They're both pretty right-hand centric. You're going to have an awkward time with the if you're left-handed with these. In terms of weight, the Ego is going to be slightly heavier than the Ryobi. Maybe that's why they give you the shoulder strap. I don't know. In terms of how the air is leaving the blower, with the Ryobi, you're a little limited on just like the funnel itself. You got to cut it back depending on how you want the air speed. That's a little bit of a downer in my opinion. The Ego, you have that fan tip, and then also you have the pointed nozzle as well. And then sound, Ryobi is clearly the winner there. It's part of their Whisper series. It's way quieter than that Ego blower. But all in all, there's pros and cons to both within that category itself. Guys, so now that we've talked about user experience, let's talk about what can be the bane of the existence of electric products in general, which is battery life, runtime, charge time, things like that. Let's dive in and check that out. So both the Ego and Ryobi batteries are going to be lithium ion batteries. What's the big deal about lithium ion batteries? They do a really good job of maintaining blower performance or tool performance, whether you're at 99% fully charged battery or 5% charged battery. You really shouldn't see much of a performance drop as you continue to use these batteries. Now, both these brands, the Ryobi 40 volt and the Ego 56 volt, are going to have different battery sizes. Like this one comes standard with the 4 amp hour battery, but they also have like a 7.5 amp hour battery, and I think they got 10 maybe. So there's a lot of different size batteries that you could get that's going to impact the runtime tests. But we're just going to test what comes standard with these. And same deal with the Ego. You're going to have options in terms of battery sizes there as well. You could get a higher amp hour battery, but that's not how these things come standard. We're just testing the standard setup. So with these batteries, we're going to do 4 different tests, 3 of which are going to be a runtime test. We're going to test how long these batteries run on full turbo. We're going to test how long they run on the highest speed of the cruise control setting, and then the lowest speed of the cruise control setting. And then that 4th test is going to be a charge time test. We're going to see how long you go from a completely dead battery to a fully charged battery. All right, guys, for the first runtime test, I've got 2 fully charged batteries, as you can see here. I'm going to put them in the blowers and zip tie the turbo button down and see how long they last. All right, it's 1 p.m. on the dot, and both turbo buttons are zip tied down. I'm going to add the batteries and see how long they run. All right, guys, it's 12:13 and the Ryobi just died on full turbo, so it's about 13 minutes. Looks like we might be losing the Ego pretty soon here too. All right, guys, and it looks like the Ego died at about 1:15 p.m. All right, guys, so it's a bit of a stress test, but you can expect the Ego to last maybe 2 or 3 minutes longer than the Ryobi on full turbo, full blast, no relief. Again, it's a bit of a stress test, but looks like the Ego runs a little bit longer. And both of these blowers, after running that turbo stress test, both of them, as you can see, are experiencing a little bit of an overheat. So they're both gonna need to cool down a little bit before they can recharge. We got 2 more fully charged batteries. I'm gonna throw these on the highest cruise control setting and see which one lasts the longest. All right, it's 3:45, 2 fully charged batteries. Let's rock and roll. All right, guys, it's 4:01 and the Ryobi has just cut out on high cruise control. Ego seems to still be rocking and rolling. All right, guys, it's 4:10 and the Ego just cut out. So that was about 15 minutes on the Ryobi and I think about 25 minutes or so on the Ego blower. So let's get them charged back up and do the lowest speed on the cruise control. As I will say that it's really convenient that Ryobi gives you two batteries, because as this test is over, I'm ready to rock and roll on the Ryobi and I've still got to wait for this Ego to charge. So, I mean, yeah, you got 10 minutes less of battery time on that particular test, but now I've got what? I don't even know. I'll do a charge test later, but probably upwards of an hour or so for the Ego to charge. So really, which one has more battery time? Interesting. Round 3 of the battery test, I have 2 fully charged batteries again. I'm gonna put these on the lowest speed of the cruise control setting and see which one lasts the longest. All right, guys, it's 1:15 p.m. We're gonna see which one of these dies first and how long the other one lasts. It's 2:15 and these blowers are still rocking and rolling. All right, guys, it is 2:45 and the Ryobi just cut out. So that's about 90 minutes of runtime. The Ego looks to be about a little bit over halfway left to go in the battery. So we're gonna see how long this one runs for. All right, guys, it's 3:15 and the Ego is still plugging along. All right, guys, it's 3:57 and the Ego finally gave up. So it was about, I don't know, if we put it on at 1:15, it was about 2 hours and 45 minutes or so. Kind of absolutely dominated the Ryobi. I think the Ryobi was like 90 minutes. I can't do the math that fast. I think it's 165 minutes, I think, for the Ego. So yeah, almost double the runtime for the Ego. Now it's time to move over to the battery charge time test. We're gonna see how long it takes each one of these batteries to fully charge. They're both completely dead. And we're gonna slide them on and see just how long it takes. All right, guys, it was 4:42 when I put these batteries on. Both these charging bases have blinking light indicators showing you where you're at in the charging process. The Ryobi basically just tells you whether you're charged or not, fully charged or not. The Ego actually gives you a different indicator. This is going to be a solid green light, and this one's going to continue blinking when you are at 80% charged. It's now 5:35 and the Ryobi is fully charged. All right, guys, it is 5:52 and we are now fully charged with the Ego as well. So about 70 minutes for a full charge on the Ego battery. All right, guys, now that we've talked about the battery life and user experience of both these blowers, let's talk about power. All right, guys, so both the Ego and Ryobi blowers are gonna have brushless motors. Now, about 5 years ago, most of these motors would have been brushed. So the difference between a brushless and a brushed motor is that a brushed motor relies on friction within the internal components of the motor to create electricity and movement within the internal components of the motor to push the air out of the turbine. And a brushless motor doesn't require friction and there's no touching of the internal components. I mean, there's some, but not near as much of the internal components of the motor. So you're gonna have a lot less friction and a lot more power because there's gonna be less friction. All right, guys, when we talk about blower power, we're typically talking about CFMs or cubic feet per minute and miles per hour. The CFM or cubic feet per minute is a measure of how much air is leaving the blower, while MPH is a measure of how fast that air is leaving the blower. So typically with a blower, as you increase CFMs, your miles per hour decreases. And as you increase miles per hour, your CFMs decrease, because typically to get a higher miles per hour, you're having a smaller opening and funneling the air down, so it's pushing quicker through that funnel. But as you can see, both these blowers are actually on the higher end of both of those categories, which is really unique. The Ryobi 40 volt blower boasts 730 CFMs with 190 miles per hour, while the Ego 56 volt blower pushes out 760 CFMs and 200 miles per hour. Wow, this thing can move some air. So guys, typically on a test like this, I would be using grass because that's what we're mostly gonna be cutting, but it's so hot here that grass has stopped growing. But I do have a bunch of dirt, so I'm gonna blow it off this piece of plywood and see which blower clears it off the quickest. Next up in the power test is the face flap challenge. Now guys, this is a very scientific, very serious experiment. We are gonna measure which one of these blowers makes my face flap the most. All right, so guys, I had pretty good flappage on both of those. Obviously the Ego was a lot stronger, but the Ryobi wasn't bad either. It felt more like if I was sticking my head out of the window on the interstate, whereas the Ego felt like maybe I was sticking my head out of the window of an airplane. All right, guys, the only true way to determine which one of these two blowers is more powerful is to enter the spin zone. Whichever blower pushes the most amount of air out and at the quickest rate is going to spin the chair in that direction. And just for a baseline, I'm gonna turn each one on, leaving the other one off so you can get a good visual of how quickly each one of these independently pushes the chair around. All right, so I got the Ryobi reattached here. We are now going to let the Ego enter the spin zone on its own. All right, guys, spin zone got a little out of control on that one. I really didn't think that one completely through. I didn't consider a brake, so I had to use a chair to stop it. But I've got them reattached. I think it will be a little bit more tamed down if they're both running. So let's see how they do head to head. Should be able to stop it because I don't think the difference is that stark between these two. Ego is clearly pushing out a little bit more air, turning the chair in its direction. So you know that the Ego is going to be a slightly more powerful than the Ryobi. All right, so let's briefly talk about the warranties and price of each. Now, the warranties are the exact same on both the Ryobi and Ego. They're both going to offer you that 5-year tool warranty and a 3-year battery warranty, which I think is great. I mean, those are really long warranties. Most tools are going to be 12 to 24 months, whereas these guys are 60 months. So I think they're really both standing behind their products. And again, they're both good products. I think if anything's going to go wrong, it's going to happen within 5 years. So, all right, guys, let's talk about price. And this is going to be interesting. The package that I've got of the Ryobi is $299. That's going to come with 2 batteries, a charger, and the tool itself. The Ego is going to run you $329. So you only get 1 battery when you buy that from Lowe's, but it is going to be that 5 amp hour battery, where the Ryobi batteries are going to be 4 amp hours. All right, guys, so just a quick recap of the things we talked about and where I would score each one of these blowers in those particular categories. We talked about user experience. Again, the way you control both these blowers is exactly the same. I will say that as I used this blower, it was a whole lot easier to turn on the cruise control for the Ego than it was for the Ryobi, which is honestly a good thing and a bad thing, because there were a couple times where I'd bump it and it would come on, but it's kind of a process to get that turned up on the Ryobi. So that's kind of a wash. I think the whole user experience comparison between these two is a bit of a wash. The only reason I would potentially consider giving the nod to the Ego is because you do get that flared tip, or the flat tip, whereas the Ryobi, it's just a tapered nozzle, and again, you have to cut it. I don't really know what they were thinking there, because you can't go back. Why not just give you a short one and a long one? But whatever. And the battery life, the Ego on like if you're comparing 1 battery to 1 battery, the Ego wins. But because the Ryobi gives you 2 batteries, that really changes things, particularly on the turbo and the highest setting of the cruise control. It would double the times I displayed on the tests, but if you just are comparing 1 battery to 1 battery, the Ego wins. So power, the Ego is definitely a more powerful blower. Is it $30 and 1 less battery more powerful? I don't know. I think that's kind of up to you to determine what's more important. So my absolute recommendation here is to do not mix these 2 product categories. If you're going to buy an Ego mower, go ahead and buy the Ego blower. If you're going to have a Ryobi mower, go ahead and buy the blower. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but because these 2 blowers are so close, especially on those first 3 categories, which are user experience, battery life, and power, because they're so close, it doesn't really matter. Warranty's the exact same price. It's a $30 price difference. This one's going to be $30 more. This is $329, where this is $299. So what's the TLR recommendation? Honestly, this is one of the more challenging product reviews I've ever done and comparative posts I've ever done, because these are so close to each other. Where the Ego is strong in one area, the Ryobi is stronger in another area. Honestly, this is a complete toss-up because they both do different things better. It's just what's more important to you. If this is your first introduction to both these product lines and you haven't gone electric before, just go to whichever place you frequent more, whether it's Lowe's or Home Depot. Guys, thanks so much for checking out this week's video. Again, had an absolute blast making it. I think it's really cool because these 2 blowers are some of the best in the industry, some of the best selling, and the best performing blowers in the industry. So it was really fun to compare the 2 and see which one came out on top. Honestly, it wasn't super clear, but I think that's a good thing. You can't really go wrong with either one, which is cool. It's gonna be fun watching these guys compete in the years to come. And there's a few newcomers on the market as well that are giving these guys a run for their money too. Guys, if you're already a subscriber, again, thank you so much. Having an absolute blast with you guys. If there's anything you want a little bit more detail on or felt like I missed in this video, just throw it in the comments section and I'll be happy to clear it up as quickly as I can. If you're not a subscriber and you want to learn a little bit more about lawn care, plant care, and the right tools for the job and be mildly entertained in the process, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure you're checking out the lawnreview.com. That's where you're gonna find a full, detailed, written, in-depth article about these two blowers. And we're really gonna go into a little bit more technical detail there. So make sure you're checking out the lawnreview.com. And check us out on the various social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, we're on it. Check us out there. Until next time, keep cutting. We'll see y'all again.